I backed up too far. I don't want to start at the beginning of my life. We'll just say I was pretty unaware and oblivious to the family problems that, i.e. my mom and dad and the divorce and my brother witnessing were going through, because I was 2 when they divorced. So I was focusing on being a child, and my mom did a pretty good job of protecting me from that. I wasn't aware until I was older. I graduated, it went to Butler in Indianapolis from 99 to 04. December of 04 is when I graduated, finally. I don't think I even want to back up this far. It all started going south when I started pitching my business ideas around, after I had spent time developing what I thought was a good business plan based on my limited life experience and my below average grades from college. Because it's evolved now. I mean, I've had a great deal more experience since then. Gotten the feedback that I needed from the questions that were asked, so I had better answers for them, and there's a lot more information available to me based on where the levels of the people are around me, because we're older now, so I learn from the people around me. So I guess I can start there. I was living in Florida. No, because I want to start how I lost my living. Like, I lost my living. So, okay, where is a good place to start? I want to, because how I ended up homeless, it was a very long, descent that took a long time for me to finally face plant. And that started happening back when I moved in with my first boyfriend. So maybe I should start there. Maybe I should start right after college. Or maybe, because I went to California first. Okay, so I graduated December 2004. Someone I went to school with, she moved from Terre Haute to Montpelier before our middle schools. Like, the county I lived in, Blackford, had 2 middle schools, Montpelier and Hartford City. And those merged to Blackford County High School when I went into my freshman year. And she and I were both cheerleaders. So she was my best friend, because my childhood best friend, the one I was just talking about previously, was closer with a different gal who had her license, and they were a little bit older than me. Like, my birthday's in May and hers is in October. That one. So she got her things changed for a while. So because this other girl was a cheerleader, and we were we went to camp freshman year, and she was my roommate, she became my close friend after that, all 4 years. So through college, she went to a college also in Indianapolis, and periodically I would meet up with her out with my friends, and she had the people she was with or whatever. And then she graduated on time, which I was supposed to graduate in May of 2003 and didn't. And she had put in a year of residency of being a nurse, and then she wanted to take advantage of the travel nurse opportunity to go to Anaheim Western Medical Center, which is in Anaheim, to be a travel nurse. And she didn't want to go by herself. Like, at the time she was engaged and I was still in school, but I was going to be graduating. And she was like, "You've always wanted to be a dancer, try to be a backup dancer, you should go." And I was all for it, of course. So I had 2 job offers, one from the Sim2K technology consultants that I was working for as an internship at the time, and then my marketing professor, Dr. McQuiston, had hooked up an interview that I was extended an offer through Staples business-to-business contracts. I had been going to other businesses getting, their orders for their office supplies through Staples. So I was like, I'm not going to do either of those. I'm going to go to California and see about this dream I've always kind of had, And I've been going to school for 5.5 years. I was like, wanting to be free a little. take a break because it was supposed to be short term. She was only supposed to do that assignment for 3 months. So we came out we lived in Lake Forest, and Huntington Beach. I lived in Lake Forest later. We lived in Huntington Beach first. Water. I'm trying to think of the cross streets. Magnolia and Water. They were like apartments right there. But anyway, I started driving up and fighting that traffic, which some days I never made it to the dance class because I transferred to the Cheesecake Factory because I had been serving at the Cheesecake Factory and the internship, and I always had a serving job. I posted about all my different jobs. I've had 30 some jobs, 32 I think. So I transferred to the Cheesecake Factory at Fashion Island in Newport Beach. And then I started working shortly after that at a place called The Rouge, which was just by Christophe's Salon. I don't know what it's called, if that salon's there, if that restaurant. I think the restaurant changed names while I was still here back then, so I can only imagine what it is now, however many years later. But I was going, so I would get off work at like in the afternoon because I was working maybe like 3 o'clock, and then I would try to drive up to make classes to Debbie Reynolds' studio, which is in, I don't know where that is actually, because how I drove to it, now I'd get to it now. I don't ever go there now. I don't go to the city. But there are like Millennium's studio is another studio, but I was going to Debbie Reynolds, and I realized like I'm not that good. Like I was pretty good for being in Indiana, and what I realized is like, wow, like I had never seen that level of talent. There weren't the dance shows out there, and like, I don't know, backup dancing, you have to dance at the level of like the artist probably, and they don't get a chance to exhibit, so, but you have to be able to do all that to even get hired, which is weird, because you don't necessarily use all of it. I mean, they do, because they do different stuff, you know, while the artist isn't, but I just hadn't ever really tried, I guess, as I'm getting too wrapped up because I'm smoking. I'll get so detailed. Doesn't matter. Point is, I realized I'm going to have to put like 5.5 years into this to even maybe have a shot at it, because it was such a small world of dancers that worked only backup. Now there's a lot more ways to employ it, and I didn't want to be in Broadway or anything like that. I'm not that type of dancer. And so I decided to get a job in my field, and I had a car accident. I mean, I could get so detailed, and you would see all the miracles, which that's why I tend to get, I think, detailed, because it's like everything leads to another thing, and sometimes what started out being something terrible, like a car accident, ended up into a job. I started working at it was Mike's Auto Experts in Mission Viejo. But they aren't there now, because I went to thank him all these years later that I've been back now. I was going to see if he remembered me. His name was Mike, and I called him an angel at that time because I had paid to have him fix my car that time. But I got in so many car accidents. I think there were 3 total while I was here, that because I've had many more. And I couldn't pay for it. And when I was at Africa on my missions trip, he fixed it for free for me. So this guy was also the guy who got me the interview that led into my job at Irvine Analytical Labs. It was at that time, now it's called Irvine Pharmaceutical Services, I've now seen. But Dr. Kazmini was my boss, but Dr. Mark Zadeh was the guy I interviewed with. And that was Mike's contact at that company, because he was like, I know somebody, they're looking for a marketing person. Or no, it was customer service at that time, because that's what my job started out in, customer service, and then I went into sales, then I was in marketing, all within 1.5 years, because or maybe 2 years, because that's all I was there before I had to leave, because I wanted to go on this mission trip. I had been to all these meetings and raised this money to go, and then I finally got the balls to ask for the time off, and he wouldn't give it to me, and so I had to leave the company in that job so I could go to Africa, and I do not regret that either. Sorry, Dr. Kashmiri, you were brilliant, but like, you'd never see this anyways, but you never know, just in case. So, obviously I worked there, and then so when I left that company to go to Africa, the problem was, like, my lease was up on my apartment, because after everything, the girl that was my friend, that I went through high school that I went and lived with, and when her little contract or whatever was up, she renewed it, and we were going to move to another apartment, but we had a falling out, and I to this day don't understand what happened. I've tried to inquire about that. I've never she doesn't talk to me, and I don't feel there's any reason for that, especially with the history that we have, so I don't worry about it. But this is what gives me the past experiences leading to paranoid behavior and conditioning, thinking that other people are going to abandon you like that and do things that are unexplainable. So after that happened, I thought I was going to have to move home back to Indiana, and why I mentioned Christoph Salon, because they came over, like two of the stylists that were dating each other at the time came over and had lunch often at the Rouge, and I served them. Well, actually, they had it at the bar. They sat at the bar, they bantered with all the servers, and they learned I was going to be leaving. I think I'd already gotten my job at Irvine Analytical Labs, so they invited me to live with them, stay with them until I got on my feet. Thank God. Thank you, Johnny and Craig. So I moved from their house to Lake Forest to an apartment, and I've been going. I forgot to mention a big point here is Saddleback Church. I'd started going there through actually the girl I moved there with. One of her nurse friends took us there, and I had no idea. I'd read the book Purpose Driven Life before, but I had no idea when we were going to church there that day that was his church. I don't believe I knew until we were there, because it was like such a big campus. And then I was like, oh my God, this guy who wrote Purpose Driven Life, which was a poignant book when I was going through my breakup with the guy I thought I was going to marry, who I was with all through college. Okay, right at that time, and my mom and my brother were reading it at the same time, and we weren't talking at the time and didn't know. And when we were talking, we discovered we were all reading this book. And that book probably is what made us talk. Anyway, that church ended up changing the way I looked at God, seeing it as a relationship instead of religion. I'd never heard that style of preaching before. I'd never heard the word translated in a way I could chew on it like that. And it made me excited again, because I don't think I ever really got it or believed it. Even though I knew the facts, I don't think I ever really believed. I know I didn't, because of all the questions I ended up having. But I wanted to believe like everybody else, and I found myself just going along with it because I, wanted to believe it so much. Because you want to believe in something good, and you want to be like everyone else around you. So that made it make sense, and I had pretty much walked away from it in college because I wasn't having to go to church every Sunday, and I wasn't, leave it to myself. I didn't want to go to church, and it didn't mean I stopped, I started being, a bad person. I still, God gives us a conscience for a reason. Where does that come from? Why aren't we just all savages, out doing whatever? That comes from somewhere. And so even though I didn't recognize, I still had that, gravity in there, and I still had my questions about it. I believed in a God, just not necessarily a religion. So he clarified that, Pastor Warren really cleared a lot of those questions up, and at that time God had brought someone into my life who was a mentor where it was able to answer the hard questions, who was able to be completely truthful and honest with my sins and the things you don't tell anyone, even your closest people, that person that's outside of your life, who's objective, that you feel safe to tell all that stuff to, who was a good sounding board, a sound-minded sounding board. That person in that position, you have to be careful who that is, because you trust that person's opinion too much and what they say too much. And it ends up rubbing off on you whether you want it to or not, and you wouldn't have that person in that position. Anyway. So, this is what weed does. Call it bad or good, I don't care. Makes me feel a whole lot better. I do know this. I just know all this talking not helping my voice. Smoking. So, anyway, when I moved to that Lake Forest apartment, and then I went back I was going to that church still, going through all the classes to become a member, going to, other classes, doing other things, and getting involved. It was also what started leading me to see things made me question religion because of behavior, that, again, that mold, that ideal of what I thought you were supposed to be like if you were a Christian. and how dishonest I was really being with myself. It was like a mirror. What I was witnessing then was what was going on with me. And so I realized I'm not a Christian, so these people aren't not a Christian either. They believe too, because at first I was like, they're devils in sheep's clothing. They're not real Christians. And I'm like, no, they're just like you. They're flawed and sinful, and we can't seem to accept that as human race. We want to achieve this idea of perfection that we know intellectually and scripturally that is impossible, yet we still try to paint a picture like that's exactly what is going on. But then we'll all say, oh, I sin too. Really? Because I don't see you like admitting much of that. Like your sin's like, I got up and ate ice cream at 12. Like, I love that skit by Amy Schumer. It's a comedy skit she does. But anyway, I started having that dichotomy go on. Like, what was going on inside was not matching the outside, and I couldn't live with that. I couldn't live with being different people with different people. Like, I'd be this person when I was talking to my mom, this person at work, this person with this friend, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, who am I? I'm keeping up with these lists of people's peeves and preferences instead of just being completely myself. And knowing who that even is. Because it's like that Julia Roberts movie, Runaway Bride, where she like eats her eggs like all her mates do, like whoever she's dating. She doesn't know how she really likes her eggs. She just eats them however they make them. And I think I was that kind of people pleaser. I wanted so badly these people, people I love to like me, that I was willing to not be myself in order to have them, because that's what it ended up costing me. I didn't know that at the end of the day. I thought, I'm just going to step away from the situation, because that's what happened when you remove yourself from being around people all the time. Then you start to become who you're meant to be, and because you have your own brain for a reason, right? You're supposed to think with it, and your own spirit. So I started acting on my own thoughts and thinking, being cognitive and awake, being conscious, and being purposeful about my actions, where I go, who I talk to, what I'm doing. If you don't have a target, you're never going to hit your mark. So what is my end goal? And I found my purpose along the way by chasing my interests, by just knowing what I like doing, what I want to be doing. And you want to think, if you're not clocking in for the dime, then it must be a waste of your time. And it's like, I do way more productive things than I ever did as a barista, just taking care of other people and doing other things. That is good as well. We need those roles, but there's a lot of people fighting for those roles. Go hire them. I have a purpose. I have something I need to be doing with my time. And while I'm not paid for it right now, it is certainly important, or it would be if people weren't trying to hijack it, which is what I feel is going on. If I want to listen to myself instead of like, why are you being nice to me? All these other people who don't seem to know me aren't very nice to me because I'm not nice to them. And right now I'm not nice to you. You tell me you like the mean me. How do you like the mean me when I'm asking you repeated questions about what the fuck is going on? Anyway, so that's a side topic, because you won't understand what I'm talking about. That's why I'm trying to tell you the story, so you understand why I write the songs I do and what's going on, because that's how they have me too, is that there's no one to tell. There's no police to tell. Can't prove anything. Like, there's no one to tell what's going on, and it's all little things that add up over time. And obviously I'm sitting in this van, and that didn't happen for no reason. And even if other people trip me so I would fall, God can use all things for the good of those who love Him, and my heart is for Him. Whether you believe that or not doesn't matter. He will redeem me. That's why I don't sweat any of this going on, because I trust in Him completely. And maybe that will show the haters and naysayers, like, maybe there really is something to what she says, or maybe there really is a God. Hopefully you remove me and see that, because that's my whole point. My project is to introduce you to a God who will accept you. If you don't know the one that's out there, there is a God that loves you, and it's the same God. It's just He has a different relationship. It's like my relationships with different people are different. The way I am with certain people, if they were talking about me and our conversations with someone who I just met or don't know on that level, they would be like, oh, she's not like that with me, around me at all. And it's like, well, you kind of are what people allow you to be, or what they give you. If you're going to be real with me, I'll be real with you. If you're not going to be real with me, then I'm probably only going to give you the surface me, because you can't handle all that. And maybe that's God's layers, or, all the different types of people. They're different people bring out different things in me, and different, so why would God want to experience the same relationship over and over? Or He would just made one person instead of 7 billion. So I'm just saying, it may not be a different God. I'm not trying to, I'll spend my whole life trying to get to know who God is, but it's fun. It's, I know new sides of God, you know, and I've met, I think, all of these sides of God, honestly, because I've been only capable of God at a certain level, at certain points in my progression of my relationship. It's like any relationship. As you get to know a person, you get more comfortable. You know them better. They feel more comfortable to be themselves. So we are nothing but an image and a reflection of God and His emotions. That's why I don't want to take the pills to shut down my emotions. I use them. I use them in my art. I use them to be the antlers, to determine where to be my gut. Do I trust this situation or not? Because the levels and the devils get harder, and especially the more you have to risk, the more you go along. And you can't just trust people with their words. You have to watch their actions. And that's what I have ignored for too long, and it may have already burned me. But I'm still here, I'm still taking, and even if all my projects are lost somehow, or I don't own them somehow, because because if you can pay the fee to own my shit, then they probably do. I can't even look up to see if that's already happened. I don't even know. It's just hypothetics, you know, at this point. It's just my gut's screaming at me, and I cannot ignore it anymore. And it happens even when I don't smoke the weed. I'm going to demonstrate that by taking a break from smoking it, because I need to do that for other reasons. But it'll be a good thing for the documentary to show that it has nothing to do with paranoia coming from weed. I must stop there. 21 minutes. Lordy.